In this CineGuru MAX tutorial, we're going to take a look at how you can create a rolling credits effect, perhaps for the end of your game or the end of a cinematic. And we're going to do that using the credits trigger. So if we go over to our level objects and add a credits trigger from the CineGuru MAX folder, this little trigger is designed to display the contents of a text file and kind of scroll that text up the screen like you might get at the end of a movie. So I'm going to draw a visual logic connection between the credits trigger and a Cine trigger zone so that we can trigger it. But let's take a closer look at the behavior. So the credits trigger runs cg_credits.lua, and there's a number of parameters here that you can change to change the look and feel of your credits. But the first thing we need to do is actually define where the credits are kept. So I'm going to navigate to a file here that actually comes with CineGuru MAX. This is creditsmax.txt. And I can show you the contents of creditsmax.txt. This is it. It's just a text file with different lines with different people on, and the various roles that helped us put together the pack. Obviously, being a text file, there's limited scope to be able to do any kind of formatting here, but don't worry, the text is, although it's left aligned in Notepad here, when it's displayed in CineGuru MAX, it will be centered. So it'll look a little bit more like it does in an actual film. So going back over to the behaviors, you've got a number of different parameters that you can tweak to change the look and feel of your credits. And the first one actually is to do with the black background that you can have behind your credits. So if you want the credits to roll up against black, you should set the width, to 100, so it takes the whole width of the screen. But if you were to set it to 50, that would just kind of put a black sort of square in the middle of the screen. Or you could set it to 0 and there would be no black square at all. Height obviously controls the height of the black background as well, but it also controls the height at which the text spawns in, so or how much of the screen the text scrolls up. So at the moment it's set to 70, so that means the text will scroll in at around sort of 15% of the way up the screen, and it'll scroll up to around 15% from the top of the screen, and it'll then kind of spawn out somewhere up here, so it'll disappear from view, so it won't go the full height of the screen. The size is obviously the size of the text, but this is CineGuru font sizes, so this is not like 16-32 point like you might be used to in a word processor. This is, as I say, CineGuru font sizes. So I like to go for 4, but feel free to go for whatever number you feel works best for you. And then speed is obviously the speed of the scroll. So 1 is very, very slow, 100 is very, very fast. I'm going to set it to 20 as a nice sort of middle ground. So if I were to go into test game now and show you what this looks like. So we haven't set a background. So you can see the text is just scrolling up now. You can see it's not appearing at the bottom of the screen. It's appearing sort of maybe 15% of the way up, and then it's scrolling up and it's kind of disappearing from view like that. So that's fine. And you might think that if you were to set the height to 100, that the text would scroll in at the very bottom of the screen. But actually, watch what happens. So the text is actually scrolling in not quite below the level of the screen. It's actually kind of scrolling in at the very bottom, and it disappears when it gets to the very top. So this is not exactly like you would see in a film. So actually what you can do is manually type in a value higher than 100, and what it will do is it will effectively spawn the text below the bottom of the screen, and it will keep it on screen until it has risen above the top of the screen, if that makes sense. It's better if I just show you. So you can see the text is actually already fully formed when it scrolls onto screen, and then when it gets to the top of the screen it actually completely disappears. So that's quite a nice effect, and as I said, the width slider can be used to add a black background. So now we've set the width of the black background to 100%, we can now enter the trigger zone and our credits will scroll up against black. So that's an example of credits just running on their own, and of course in that example the player still had full control to run around. But another way you could use this potentially is to set up a shot and trigger a camera at the same time as your credits. So if you were going to do this, obviously you wouldn't want your black background, so let me just set this camera up a little bit first. The credits are probably going to last a few seconds, so I'm going to say this is a 20-second shot. And I'm gonna remove our black background. So if I go back into our credits trigger and set the width to 0, now when I activate the camera, the credits now scroll up. So you can imagine that this would be you know, a nice way to potentially end your game if this was a, you know, a nice sort of shot at the end or something of a character or of a scene. So yeah, all good. One thing to note is that special characters like copyright symbols don't necessarily always appear. Game Guru can't display them, so I think our text file does actually contain a copyright C, but that can't be displayed within Game Guru MAX at the moment. So that's how you can use credit triggers to create a rolling credits effect in your game.